Min-jae grabbed Beverly's wrist in the dark parking lot. His fingers tightened just enough to stop her, not enough to hurt. "Let go of me," Beverly said. Her voice didn't shake. No fear, just calm certainty. Min-jae glanced at her car, then back to her face. "Don't get in that car." "Why?" Beverly's eyes narrowed. "Is this how you operate? Corner women in parking lots when they say no to your offers?" The irony hit Min-jae like a punch. 20 minutes earlier, he would have allowed anything to happen to this woman. Now he stood between her and certain death, holding her wrist like his own life depended on it. "Someone cut your brake lines." Beverly didn't pull away. Didn't scream. She just looked at him with those steady brown eyes and said, "If you're going to hurt me, do it. But don't waste my time with games." Min-jae felt something crack inside his chest. Not because she was brave, but because she genuinely believed he was capable of violence against her. And the worst part? She was right. "I'm trying to save your life," he said, his voice low. Beverly's laugh was sharp, humorless. "From who?" "Your people." Min-jae didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth hung between them like smoke. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" Beverly asked. "How do I know you're not trying to get me into your car instead?" Min-jae released her wrist slowly, pulled his phone from his pocket, and held it out. "Call whoever you want. Stay right here in public view. But don't get in that car." Beverly stared at him for a long moment, confusion mixing with something else, curiosity maybe. Or the first seeds of trust. And for the first time in 15 years, Park Min-jae didn't know which side he was on. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story with me, smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because, trust me, tomorrow I'm bringing you another story that's going to hit just as hard as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Alright, let's rewind 3 weeks and see how we got here. Min-jae never raised his voice. He didn't have to. In a 4th-floor office above a Korean restaurant on Federal Street, he reviewed the day's numbers. Protection payments from 6 businesses. Loan repayments from 4 others. All on time. All as expected. "Excuse me, sir." A young man appeared at the door, Dae-young, his right hand. "Uncle Kwon wants to speak with you." Min-jae straightened his charcoal suit jacket and nodded once. Uncle Kwon wasn't really his uncle, but the title showed respect. In the organization, respect meant survival. The call connected on the first ring. "Min-jae," Kwon's voice came through, gruff from decades of cigarettes. "I need the property at 4429 Dark Hollow Road. 30 days. Min-jae's pen tapped once against his notepad. "The owner's been approached?" 4 offers. All rejected. "I don't care how you get it, but we need that location for the new distribution center." "Understand?" "Yes, uncle." "Good. Don't disappoint me." The call ended. Min-jae turned to Dae-young. "Get me everything on the owner." 10 minutes later, a file landed on his desk. Beverly T. Brown. Age 31. Social worker. Single. Living with her father, who'd suffered a stroke last year. Steady income, but heavy medical bills. Min-jae studied her photo. Brown skin. Hair pulled back tight. Eyes that looked straight into the camera without flinching. She should be desperate for money with those medical bills, Dae-young said. But she won't budge. Min-jae closed the file. Set up a dinner. Water Street Grill. Tomorrow night. You're handling this personally? Dae-young looked surprised. Some people need to understand their position in the world. Min-jae straightened his cuffs. She'll sign before dessert arrives. Dae-young bowed slightly and left. Min-jae turned to the window, looking out over Camden. From up here, the city looked small. Manageable. Just assets and liabilities on a giant ledger. And Beverly Brown had just become a liability he needed to eliminate. Min-jae reached for his phone to make the reservation, unaware that in less than a month, he'd be standing in a dark parking lot, protecting the woman he'd been sent to destroy. Beverly Brown turned the key in the front door of 4429 Dark Hollow Road, balancing grocery bags in her other arm. The house wasn't much to look at from outside, peeling white paint, a wraparound porch with worn boards, and garden beds that needed weeding. But it was home. "Dad, I'm back," she called, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. James Brown sat in his modified recliner in the living room, the TV playing an old western at low volume. At 67, he looked older. The stroke last year had taken its toll. His right side was weaker, his speech sometimes slurred, but his eyes were still sharp. "How was work?" he asked. Beverly unpacked the groceries. "The usual. Too many cases, not enough resources." She pulled out his medications and arranged them in the weekly pill organizer. Mrs. Patel at the pharmacy said hello. The living room had been transformed after her father's stroke. A hospital bed sat against one wall for bad days. Handrails led to the bathroom. Medical equipment cluttered the corners. Insurance covered some of it, but not nearly enough. Beverly's phone buzzed. Another email from Horizon Pacific Holdings. She deleted it without reading. "Another offer?" her father asked, watching her face. "Fifth one." Beverly shrugged. "They're getting desperate." "How much this time?" "Doesn't matter." Her father shifted in his chair. "Beverly, maybe we should." "We're not selling." She softened her voice. "This is your home." "It's my home." What she didn't say, this house was the only thing her grandmother had owned outright. Purchased in 1968 when black families weren't welcome in most Camden neighborhoods. Her grandmother had cleaned houses for 20 years to afford it, had raised Beverly's father here, had passed away in the upstairs bedroom. This house was more than wood and nails, it was history, legacy, proof that her family had survived. "I know what it means to you," her father said. "But those medical bills." "I'm handling it." Beverly checked her watch. "I need to go back to the office. Case files to finish." At the Camden County Children's Services office, Beverly sat at her desk surrounded by stacks of folders. Each one a child. Each one a life hanging in the balance. "Brown, you got a minute?" Her supervisor, Martinez, appeared in the doorway. "For you?" "Maybe 30 seconds. Beverly smiled. Martinez handed her a new file. 10-year-old, mother arrested for possession last night. Father's not in the picture. Grandmother wants custody but has health issues. Beverly scanned the details. Foster system's already overcrowded. That's why I need you on this. You're good at finding solutions where there aren't any. Beverly nodded, already flipping through the pages. This was why she did this work, finding paths forward when all roads seemed closed. She worked until 7, then headed home to shower and change. The formal invitation from Horizon Pacific Holdings sat on her dresser. Water Street Grill, 8 p.m. Beverly pulled out a simple black dress, professional, not flashy. She didn't know who she was meeting, but she knew what they wanted. And she knew what her answer would be. Her father watched from the doorway as she applied minimal makeup. "You look nice." "Thanks, Dad." "These people." He hesitated. "Be careful, Beverly. Companies like that don't take no for an answer." "I'm not afraid of men in expensive suits." She checked her reflection one last time. "They think money is the answer to everything. That everyone has a price. Don't we?" Beverly turned to face him. Some things aren't for sale. Grandma taught me that. Her phone buzzed, the rideshare was outside. She kissed her father's cheek. Don't wait up, she said, grabbing her purse. This shouldn't take long. As the car pulled away, Beverly stared back at the house. In the evening light, it looked smaller, more vulnerable. Like it knew someone wanted to tear it down. She didn't know the man she was meeting. Didn't know he ran an organization that controlled half of Camden through fear. Didn't know that when he looked at her file, he saw only a problem to be solved. But she was about to show him that some problems don't have simple solutions. Some people can't be bought or intimidated. Some battles are worth fighting, even when you know you might lose. Min Jae arrived at Water Street Grill 30 minutes early. He chose the table himself, center of the room, visible from every angle. This wasn't just dinner. It was theater. Your best wine, he told the waiter. The Bordeaux. Bring it before my guest arrives. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation, the kind that cost money to be part of. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, waitstaff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Min Jae had closed 3 deals here in the past year. People became more agreeable surrounded by luxury they couldn't afford. At exactly 8 p.m., Beverly Brown walked through the door. Min Jae had expected her to look intimidated, to pause and take in the opulence. Instead, she scanned the room with calm efficiency, spotted him, and walked directly to his table. Her dress was simple but well-fitted. No jewelry except small earrings and a watch. Nothing flashy. Mr. Park, she said, extending her hand. He stood, momentarily surprised she knew his name. Ms. Brown. Thank you for coming. Beverly sat without waiting for him to pull out her chair. The waiter appeared with the wine bottle, displayed the label for Min Jae's approval. Water for me, Beverly said before Min Jae could order for her. No ice. Min Jae nodded to the waiter, who poured the wine and disappeared. The script was already slipping away from him. I appreciate you taking the time to meet, he began smoothly. Horizon Pacific Holdings is very interested in. I know Horizon Pacific is a shell corporation, Beverly said, her voice low but clear. I know you're not actually in real estate development. And I know you expected me to walk in here impressed by the tablecloths and too intimidated to say no. She paused to take a sip of water. I'm not impressed. And I'm not intimidated. So if you have a real conversation to offer, let's have it. Otherwise, I have a father to get home to. Min Jae's face remained impassive, but inside, something shifted. No one spoke to him like this. His subordinates wouldn't dare. Business associates were too afraid of the organization behind him. You've done your research, he said finally. Social worker, she replied with a small shrug. Research is part of the job. Min Jae studied her face. No fear. No greed. Just a calm certainty he rarely encountered. Then let's have a real conversation, he said, pushing the menu aside. Why won't you sell? Why do you want to buy? Location. Access to transport routes. Development potential. Beverly nodded. Standard answers. But not the whole truth, I think. Min Jae found himself smiling slightly. Perhaps not. Your turn. Beverly set down her glass. That house belonged to my grandmother. She bought it in 1968 when most places wouldn't sell to black families. She cleaned houses for 20 years to pay for it. Raised my father there. Left it to me. Sentimental value, Min Jae said. Legacy, Beverly corrected. There's a difference. Min Jae thought unexpectedly of his own grandmother. The small apartment in Seoul where she'd raised him after his parents died. The smell of kimchi and the sound of her singing as she cooked. How the building had been demolished 3 years after her death to make way for luxury condominiums. The money could help your father, he said, pushing the thought away. His medical care is my responsibility, Beverly finished. Not yours. Everyone has a price, Ms. Brown. That's where you're wrong, Mr. Park. Beverly leaned forward slightly. Some things matter more than money. I think you know that, or you wouldn't work so hard to get so much of it. The waiter appeared again. Are you ready to order? Beverly stood. I won't be staying. Thank you for the water, Mr. Park. Min Jae found himself standing too, an automatic courtesy he rarely showed. You haven't heard our offer. The answer is still no. Beverly's eyes met his directly. But thank you for meeting me. She walked out, back straight, steps unhurried. Min Jae watched her go, still standing beside the table, the untouched wine open before him. His phone buzzed. Uncle Kwan's name on the screen. Well, the message read. Is it done? Min Jae stared at Beverly's empty chair, not answering. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to say. The waiter hovered awkwardly. Sir? Will you be dining alone? Min Jae sat back down slowly. Bring me whatever is good tonight. He looked at the wine bottle. And another glass. As he waited for his food, Min Jae replayed the conversation in his head. She'd seen through him immediately. Had called his bluff before he could even make it. What bothered him most wasn't her refusal. It was the certainty behind it. The unshakable belief that some things weren't for sale. He couldn't remember the last time he'd believed anything that strongly. His phone buzzed again. Uncle Kwan would be waiting for an answer. Min Jae took a sip of wine and made a decision that would change everything. He didn't answer. You promised results. Uncle Kwan's voice crackled through Min Jae's phone 3 days after the failed dinner. The deadline hasn't changed. Min Jae stood by his office window, watching Camden's morning traffic. She's considering our offer. Don't lie to me. The words came sharp as a blade. Dae-young says she walked out without hearing the price. Min Jae's jaw tightened. So Dae-young was reporting directly to Uncle Kwan now. Interesting. I'm handling it, Min Jae said. These things take time. We don't have time. The shipping schedule is set for next month. That location is non-negotiable. The call ended. Min Jae slipped the phone into his pocket and turned to find Dae-young standing in the doorway. Problems? Dae-young asked, not bothering to hide his smirk. Min Jae's face remained neutral. Set up a meeting with our contacts at the city planning office. I want to know who else owns property in that area. There are faster ways to handle this, Dae-young said. The woman has a father with health problems. Accidents happen. We're not there yet. Min Jae's voice dropped 10 degrees. Follow my instructions. Dae-young bowed slightly and left, but the challenge in his eyes remained. That afternoon, Min Jae found himself driving past 4429 Dark Hollow Road. He told himself it was reconnaissance, understanding the terrain, evaluating the property. But when he parked across the street and watched Beverly help her father onto the porch, he knew it was something else. They sat together in matching chairs, Beverly reading something from a tablet while her father listened. She laughed at something he said, her face transforming with a smile Min Jae hadn't seen at the restaurant. His phone buzzed. Another text from Uncle Kwan, updates? Min Jae didn't reply. He started his car and drove away. The next day, Min Jae, coincidentally, appeared at a coffee shop near the Camden County Children's Services office. He sat with his laptop open, pretending to work. At 12:45, Beverly walked in, ordered a black coffee, and turned to find a seat. Her eyes narrowed when she spotted him. Are you following me? She asked, stopping at his table. Min Jae closed his laptop. This is a public place. That's not an answer. Sit down, Ms. Brown. Min Jae gestured to the empty chair. Please. Beverly hesitated, then sat. What do you want? I wanted to understand something. Understand what? How you can be so certain about things I've never been certain about. Beverly studied him, coffee untouched. Most people who work for shell corporations don't admit they're uncertain about anything. I'm not most people. No, she agreed. You're not. Something shifted in the air between them, not trust exactly, but a recognition. Two people seeing each other clearly for the first time. Tell me about your work, Min Jae said. Beverly raised an eyebrow. Why? I'm curious. She took a sip of coffee, considering him. Then, surprisingly, she began to talk. About the children she tried to protect. The system that failed them. The small victories that kept her going. Yesterday, I found a grandmother willing to take in her 3 grandchildren after their mother went to prison, she said. The system wanted to separate them. Put them in different foster homes. I fought for 6 hours to keep them together. Did you win? Beverly's smile was tired but real. This time. You protect people, Min Jae said softly. I try. Beverly looked at him directly. What do you protect, Mr. Park? The question hit him like a physical blow. I've never protected anyone, he admitted. Only interests. It's not too late to change that. Min Jae laughed, short and bitter. You don't know what I am. No, Beverly agreed. But I know what you could be. And I think that scares you more than anything. Min Jae didn't answer. She was right, and they both knew it. Beverly checked her watch and stood. I have to get back to work. Ms. Brown, Min Jae called as she turned to leave. Your house. The offers will keep coming. And my answer will stay the same. She paused. Have a good day, Mr. Park. Min Jae watched her walk away, feeling something unfamiliar crack open inside his chest. When his phone buzzed again, he ignored it. That evening, Dae-young sat in Uncle Kwan's office in Philadelphia, the old man smoking behind his massive desk. Min Jae is stalling, Dae-young said. He's met the woman twice now. No progress. Uncle Kwan tapped ash from his cigarette. You're sure? I've been watching him. Something's wrong. He's distracted. Distracted. Uncle Kwan let the word hang in the air. After all I've done for him. What should we do? The old man crushed his cigarette. If Min Jae can't handle this, we will. That night, Dae-young sat in a car across from 4429 Dark Hollow Road, watching as the lights went off one by one. In the passenger seat, 2 men waited silently for instructions. Tomorrow, Dae-young said, starting the engine. We'll take care of the problem tomorrow. Min Jae was reviewing accounts in his office Thursday night when Sung-min, his driver, burst through the door without knocking. Sir, Sung-min's voice was tight with urgency. They're going after her. Min Jae looked up. Who? The woman. The one with the house. Sung-min glanced over his shoulder, then lowered his voice. Dae-young ordered it. They cut the brake lines on her car an hour ago. The room seemed to tilt. You're sure? I heard him on the phone with the mechanics. She has an appointment tomorrow morning, taking her father to the doctor. Sung-min swallowed. They're making it look like an accident. Min Jae's face revealed nothing, but his mind raced. This wasn't business anymore. This was murder. And not just Beverly, her father too. Collateral damage. Sir? Sung-min watched him anxiously. What do we do? Min-jae stood, grabbing his keys and phone. You do nothing. You never told me this. Understand? Sung-min nodded once. Min-jae drove faster than was safe through Camden streets. Not because he cared about Beverly Brown. This was about principle. About chain of command. Dae-young had overstepped, going directly to Uncle Kwon, ordering a hit without approval. That's what he told himself, anyway. It was 9:42 p.m. when he pulled into the street across from 4429 Dark Hollow Road. The lights were on downstairs. A minute later, the front door opened, and Beverly stepped out, purse over her shoulder, keys in hand. Min-jae got out of his car and crossed the street quickly. Beverly was halfway to her car when she spotted him. She stopped, her body tensing. Mr. Park. It's late for a house call. Don't get in that car. Min-jae's voice was steady despite the urgency he felt. Why? Did your company leave a surprise for me? Her tone was bitter. Yes. The single word hung in the air between them. Beverly's expression shifted from anger to confusion. What are you talking about? Min-jae moved closer. Someone cut your brake lines. Someone? Beverly's eyes narrowed. You mean your people? Min-jae didn't deny it. Why are you telling me this? Beverly took a step back. Why would you warn me? Because I don't want you to die. The truth surprised even him. Beverly stared at him for a long moment. I need to go to the pharmacy. My father's medication. I'll take you, Min-jae said. Or call a rideshare. But don't drive that car. Beverly hesitated, clearly weighing her options. Trust the man connected to people who just tried to kill her, or risk her life in a sabotage vehicle? How do I know this isn't a trap? She asked. How do I know you're not trying to get me into your car instead? Min-jae pulled out his phone and held it out to her. Call whoever you want. Stay right here in public view. But don't get in that car. Hey. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button right now and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Now, back to Min-jae and Beverly at this critical moment. Beverly took the phone but didn't make a call. Instead, she studied Min-jae's face. Why do you suddenly care if I live or die? Min-jae had no answer. At least, not one he understood himself. I'll call a mechanic I trust, he said, taking back his phone. They'll fix your car tonight. Make it look like routine maintenance. Beverly crossed her arms. And what do you want in return? Nothing. She laughed, a sharp sound without humor. Everyone wants something, Mr. Park. Min-jae, he corrected. My name is Min-jae. Something shifted in Beverly's expression. What's happening here? Yesterday you were trying to force me out of my home. Today you're saving my life? Min-jae looked away. I don't know. The simple honesty of his answer seemed to reach her more than any explanation could have. I need to tell my father I'll be late, Beverly said finally. While she went inside, Min-jae made 2 calls, one to the mechanic, another to a security contact. He arranged for subtle surveillance on Beverly's house overnight. Not his people. Independent contractors who owed him favors. Beverly returned with 2 cups of coffee in travel mugs. She handed one to Min-jae. It's going to be a long night, she said. They sat on her porch steps, the night air cool around them. Neither spoke for a long time. Your people won't stop, will they? Beverly asked finally. No. Because of the house? Min-jae nodded. It's not just property. It's location. Access routes. Sightlines. For what? He didn't answer. Couldn't answer without putting her in more danger. Beverly seemed to understand his silence. So what now? I don't know, Min-jae admitted again. The mechanic arrived at 11:30 p.m. Min-jae spoke to him quietly, then returned to the porch. He'll have it fixed by morning, he told Beverly. It'll be safe. And tomorrow? The next day? Beverly's voice was tired. How long can you keep protecting me from your own people? Min-jae had no answer for that either. As dawn broke, they still sat together, empty coffee mugs between them. The mechanic had finished and left. Birds began to sing in the trees lining Dark Hollow Road. Beverly stood and stretched. I should check on my father. Min-jae nodded, rising as well. They faced each other in the early morning light, two people caught in something neither fully understood. Thank you, Beverly said finally. For tonight. She opened her door, then paused. Would you like more coffee? It's the least I can offer someone who stayed up all night on my porch. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't trust. But it was an offering. A beginning. Min-jae nodded. I'd like that. 3 days passed after the night on the porch. Min-jae maintained discreet surveillance on Beverly's house, men he trusted, not connected to Uncle Kwan. He told himself it was necessary precaution. He told himself it wasn't personal. He was lying to himself. Beverly didn't call. Min-jae didn't expect her to. But when his phone rang Wednesday afternoon and her name appeared on the screen, something jumped in his chest. Yes, he answered. We need to talk. Beverly's voice was flat. Memorial Park. 2 o'clock. She hung up before he could respond. Min-jae arrived early, parking along the street that bordered the small urban park. People jogged along the paths. Children played on swing sets. Normal life continuing while his own seemed to be splintering at the edges. Beverly appeared exactly at 2, walking purposefully toward the bench where he waited. She wore her work clothes, navy blazer, sensible shoes. Her face was unreadable. Thank you for coming, Min-jae said as she sat. This isn't a social call. Beverly placed a manila folder on the bench between them. I did some research on Horizon Pacific Holdings. Min-jae didn't touch the folder. I see. At first I just wanted to know who was trying to buy my house. But then I started looking deeper. Beverly's voice remained steady. I have friends in the county clerk's office, in zoning, in property records. I found patterns. She opened the folder. Inside were printouts, maps, photographs. 6 businesses in Camden closed in the last year after refusing to sell to Horizon. A fire at a laundromat in February. A robbery at a jewelry store in April that bankrupted the owner. A hit-and-run that put a restaurant owner in the hospital for 3 months. Min-jae's face remained impassive, but inside, something cold settled in his stomach. Then I started asking questions about you. Beverly looked at him directly. Park Min-jae. No criminal record. Clean business profile. But your name comes up in whispers. The quiet Korean man who makes problems disappear. She pulled out another sheet. Your organization controls protection money from half the businesses in Camden. Loan sharking. Drugs. Human trafficking. Not trafficking, Min-jae said automatically. I don't allow that. Beverly's laugh was harsh. You don't allow that? As if that makes any difference? She leaned forward. How many people have you hurt, Min-jae? How many families? Min-jae met her eyes. More than I can count. More than I can fix. The simple admission seemed to hit Beverly harder than any denial would have. She sat back, something like disappointment crossing her face. I thought you were different, she said quietly. I thought when you stayed on my porch that night, you were choosing to be someone else. I was trying. Trying isn't enough when people are dead. The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Min-jae looked away. What do you want from me? I want you to stay away from me and my house. Beverly gathered the papers back into the folder. Whatever this is, whatever you think is happening between us, it's over. She stood to leave. They won't stop, Min-jae said. I know. Beverly looked down at him. But I'd rather face them than wonder if I'm talking to one of them. She walked away. Min-jae didn't follow. Back at his office, Min-jae stared at spreadsheets without seeing them. Numbers that used to make sense now seemed meaningless. Assets. Liabilities. For years he'd reduced people to entries in a ledger. Now all he could see were faces. The Thai woman whose restaurant paid protection every month. The bodega owner who took a loan to pay for his daughter's college tuition. Beverly, sitting on her porch, protecting her father, her legacy. Sir. Dae-young appeared at the door. Uncle Kwon wants to see you. Tonight. Min-jae nodded once, dismissing him. Uncle Kwon's office occupied the top floor of a nondescript building in Philadelphia. The room was traditional, Korean paintings, leather furniture, a desk that had been shipped from Seoul 40 years ago. The old man sat behind it smoking, his face deeply lined from years of similar meetings. Sit, he said when Min-jae entered. Min-jae remained standing. A small act of defiance that didn't go unnoticed. The woman, Uncle Kwon said, tapping ash from his cigarette. She's becoming a problem. Min-jae said nothing. We've been patient with you, Uncle Kwon continued. Out of respect for your father. But time has run out. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Come in. Dae-young entered, followed by two men Min-jae recognized as the organization's cleaners, the ones who handled problems permanently. The house will be dealt with this weekend, Uncle Kwon said. Friday night. Dealt with how? Min-jae kept his voice neutral despite the sick feeling in his gut. Fire. Clean. Untraceable. Uncle Kwon's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. Her father's medical equipment will make excellent fuel. Oxygen tanks can be quite explosive. Min-jae understood now. They weren't just going to burn the house. They were going to make sure Beverly and her father were inside when it happened. I'd like you to handle it personally, Uncle Kwon continued. Show me you're still committed to our organization. Min-jae nodded once. I understand. Uncle Kwon studied him for a moment, then waved his hand in dismissal. Friday night. Don't disappoint me. Outside, sitting in his car, Min-jae gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He had 2 days. 2 days to decide who he was going to be. His eyes fell on the glove compartment. Inside was a flash drive he'd kept hidden for 3 years, financial records, transaction histories, names of politicians and police officers on the payroll. His insurance policy in case the organization ever turned on him. Now it could be something else. A weapon. A way out. Or a death sentence. Min-jae reached for the compartment, then stopped. Using the drive meant burning everything down, the organization, his position, the life he'd built. It meant making enemies who would never stop hunting him. But not using it meant Beverly and her father would die. Min-jae started his car and drove into the night, the decision weighing on him like a stone. Friday came too quickly. Min-jae spent the day making arrangements, careful to keep his actions hidden from Dae-young's watchful eyes. At 7:30 p.m., he left his office with a simple "good night" to his staff. By 8:15, he was parked across from Beverly's house. Lights glowed in the windows. Soft shadows moved behind curtains, Beverly and her father going about their evening, unaware of what was coming. Min-jae checked his watch. The cleaning crew would arrive around midnight. They liked working when neighborhoods were asleep, when witnesses were few. He sat in his car for almost an hour, engine off, watching the house. When he finally got out and walked to the front door, each step felt heavier than the last. Beverly opened on the second knock. Her expression hardened when she saw him. "I told you to stay away," she said, not opening the door fully. "They're coming tonight," Min-jae said quietly. "To burn your house." Beverly's face didn't change. "And you're here to warn me again? So you can feel noble?" "No." Min-jae met her eyes. "I'm here to stop them." She studied him for a long moment, then stepped onto the porch, pulling the door nearly closed behind her. "My father is asleep. Don't wake him." "We should leave," Min-jae said. "Both of you. Tonight. This is our home." Beverly crossed her arms. "I'm not running. These people don't make empty threats. Neither do I." Beverly's jaw tightened. "Why should I trust you? You're one of them." Min-jae looked away. "I was. I don't know what I am now." He turned back to her. "But I know I'm not leaving this porch." The standoff lasted several seconds, neither willing to back down. "You can sit out here if you want," Beverly said finally. "I'm going back inside." She disappeared into the house, closing the door firmly behind her. Min-jae settled onto the porch steps, prepared for a long wait. 30 minutes later, the door opened again. Beverly appeared with 2 mugs. "It's cold out," she said, handing him one. The coffee was strong and black. Min-jae wrapped his hands around the warmth. "Thank you." Beverly sat beside him, leaving careful space between them. "What happens after tonight?" "They'll just try again." Min-jae stared into his mug. "I'm working on that." "What does that mean?" He didn't answer. Couldn't. Not yet. They sat in silence for a while, the night sounds of Camden around them, distant sirens, the rumble of traffic, music from a house down the block. "Tell me about your grandmother," Min-jae said suddenly. Beverly looked surprised by the question. "Why? You said she bought this house. That it mattered." Beverly's face softened slightly. "She was a force of nature. Raised my father alone. Worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Never complained." She traced the rim of her mug. "When I was little, she'd tell me stories about this house, how she saved for years to buy it, how the white real estate agent tried to talk her out of it, how the neighbors left when she moved in. But she stayed. She stayed." Beverly smiled slightly. "She used to say, when someone tries to push you out, that's when you know you're exactly where you need to be." Min-jae thought about his own grandmother, the small apartment in Seoul, the lullabies she sang, the strength in her gnarled hands. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died," he said. "In Seoul. She never owned anything. We rented a small apartment. After she died, I promised myself I would own things. Control things. Never be vulnerable. And now? Now I wonder if she would recognize the man I became." Beverly was quiet for a moment. It's not too late to be someone she would recognize. Before Min-jae could respond, headlights cut through the darkness. A car with its lights off coasted to a stop down the block. "They're here," he said softly. Beverly tensed beside him. "Who?" "Dae-young. My second in command. And others." 3 men emerged from the car, moving with practiced efficiency. Even in the darkness, Min-jae could make out the gas cans they carried. "Stay here," he said, standing. "Min-jae. Trust me. Please." He walked down the steps and stood in the yard, clearly visible. The men approached, then froze when they recognized him. Min-jae. Dae-young's voice held surprise. What are you doing here? Go home, Dae-young. The younger man glanced at his companions, then back to Min-jae. Uncle Kwon gave orders. Uncle Kwon isn't here. I am. And I'm telling you, this house doesn't burn tonight. Dae-young set down his gas can. You were supposed to handle this yourself. I am handling it. Understanding dawned on Dae-young's face, followed by disgust. The woman? That's what this is about? He shook his head. I never thought you'd be so weak. It's not weakness to protect innocent people. It's business, Min-jae. It's always been business. Not anymore. Dae-young pulled out his phone. Uncle Kwon needs to hear this. The call connected almost immediately. Dae-young explained the situation, then held out the phone on speaker. Min-jae. Uncle Kwon's voice crackled in the night air. You're making a mistake. I don't think I am. If you do this, you're dead. The old man's voice was deadly calm. Your mother and soul is dead. Everyone you've ever. Min-jae reached over and ended the call. Silence hung between the men. No one moved. You know what this means, Dae-young said finally. I do. He'll send others. Then I'll stop them too. Dae-young studied him for a long moment. You'd throw everything away for her? Your position? The business? Your life? Min-jae didn't hesitate. Yes. Something like respect flickered across Dae-young's face. He nodded once, then gestured to his men. They backed away, returned to their car, and drove off without another word. Min-jae watched until their taillights disappeared, knowing this wasn't over. That it was, in fact, just beginning. When he returned to the porch, Beverly stood waiting, her face pale in the moonlight. They're gone, he said. For now. I heard. Beverly's voice was quiet. The threats. What he said about your mother. Min-jae nodded once. You chose us. Beverly searched his face. Why? Min-jae looked at the house behind her, modest, worn, but filled with meaning. Then at Beverly herself, standing firm despite her fear. Because you were right, he said simply. I wanted to be better. I just didn't know how. The sky was beginning to lighten, dawn not far away. Beverly's father would be waking soon, unaware of how close they'd come to losing everything. Min-jae reached into his pocket and pulled out the flash drive. I know how now, he said, holding it out to her. What is that? Everything. Financial records. Names. Transactions. Min-jae's voice was steady. Enough to take down the entire organization. Beverly stared at the small device. You do that? Destroy everything you've built? I didn't build it, Min-jae said. I inherited it. And it's time to tear it down. In the growing light, Beverly's expression shifted from disbelief to something else, not quite trust, but it's beginning. What's the next step? She asked. That depends on you, Min-jae answered. Because whatever happens next, it happens to both of us. We need to move quickly, Min-jae said, pouring coffee in Beverly's kitchen as morning sunlight streamed through the windows. Once Uncle Kwon realizes what I've done, he'll send more people. Beverly sat across from him, the flash drive between them on the table. Her father was still asleep in the living room. What exactly are you proposing? She asked. We take this to the FBI. Today. Min-jae tapped the drive. I give them everything, money laundering records, protection schemes, bribes to city officials. Names, dates, accounts. In exchange for what? Immunity for me. Witness protection for all of us. Beverly stared at him. Witness protection. You mean, disappear? New identities? Leave everything behind? Min Jae nodded. It's the only way to be safe from the organization. My father would come with us. Beverly stood, pacing the small kitchen. This is insane. Yesterday my biggest problem was keeping this house. Now you want me to leave it forever? If you stay, they'll kill you, Min Jae said simply. Both of you. Beverly stopped pacing. Why include us at all? You could take your evidence, get your deal, disappear alone. Min Jae met her eyes. You know why. The unspoken thing between them hung in the air, not love, not yet, but something with the potential to become it. I need to wake my father, Beverly said finally. He should be part of this decision. While Beverly spoke with her father, Min Jae made calls from his car. Not to his associates or to Uncle Kwon, but to a lawyer he'd kept on retainer for years. Someone outside the organization, clean. I need an introduction at the FBI field office, Min Jae said. Today. Highest level possible. This about the flash drive? The lawyer asked. Yes. They'll want assurances. Proof your information is worth what you're asking. I'll give them enough to start. The rest comes after the deal is signed. 2 hours later, Beverly emerged from the house, her father behind her. James Brown looked tired but resolute. We'll go with you, Beverly said. To hear what they have to say. Min Jae nodded once. My lawyer's meeting us there. The Philadelphia FBI field office was a modern glass building, anonymous among the city's towers. Inside, Min Jae, Beverly, and her father were escorted to a conference room where 2 agents and Min Jae's lawyer waited. Mr. Park, the older agent said, not offering his hand. I'm Special Agent Morales. This is Agent Chen. Min Jae sat across from them. Thank you for seeing us. Your lawyer says you have information about organized crime in Camden. Morales' voice was neutral. Care to be more specific? Min Jae placed the flash drive on the table. This contains financial records for an organization operating throughout South Jersey and Philadelphia. Money laundering, protection rackets, drug distribution, real estate fraud. We've heard these claims before, Chen said skeptically. Min Jae opened his laptop, inserted the drive, and turned the screen toward them. First 5 files are sample evidence. Account numbers. Transaction records. Names of 3 city council members on the payroll. The agents leaned forward, scanning the information. If this is legitimate, Morales began. It is. Min Jae closed the laptop. And there's much more. But first, we need to discuss terms. The negotiations lasted hours. Beverly and her father sat silently as Min Jae and his lawyer outlined demands. Full immunity for Min Jae, witness protection for all 3 of them, continued medical care for James Brown. The woman and her father aren't involved, Agent Chen pointed out. Why do they need protection? Because the organization targeted them, Min Jae explained. And will again if they stay. We'd need their testimony as well, Morales said, looking at Beverly. About the threats, Beverly clarified. Nothing else. That could work. Morales made notes. But understand what you're agreeing to. Witness protection means cutting all ties. No contact with friends, extended family, colleagues. New names, new city, new lives. Beverly glanced at her father, who nodded slightly. We understand, she said. It took 3 days to finalize the deal. 3 days of meetings, statements, preliminary evidence reviews. 3 days during which Min Jae arranged discreet security for Beverly's house, knowing Uncle Kwon wouldn't wait forever. On the final day, as they signed the agreements, Agent Morales looked at Min Jae seriously. Once you turn over the full evidence, there's no going back, he said. People will know who provided it. People with long memories and longer reach. I'm aware, Min-jae replied. Beverly watched him, understanding now the full weight of his choice. He wasn't just leaving his organization, he was actively destroying it. Making himself a traitor to everyone he'd worked with for years. That night, their last in Camden, Min-jae drove to his apartment to collect the few items he would take, some clothes, a watch his grandmother had given him, a photo of his mother and soul. Everything else, the expensive furniture, the art, the trappings of his former life, would stay behind. On impulse, he drove past Uncle Kwan's restaurant. The place was busy, patrons coming and going, unaware of the criminal enterprise operated from the back rooms. Min-jae parked across the street, not approaching, just looking. 15 years he'd worked for the organization. 15 years building power, reputation, wealth. Tomorrow it would all be gone. His phone buzzed. A text from Dae-young, whatever you're planning, stop now. Last chance. Min-jae didn't reply. Instead, he drove to Dark Hollow Road, where Beverly was packing her own essentials. How much can we take? She asked when he arrived. Whatever fits in one suitcase each. Beverly nodded, continuing to sort through her father's medications. The house around them looked both familiar and strange, already becoming a memory rather than a home. My grandmother's photo albums, she said. My father's books. The quilt my mother made. Bring what matters most, Min-jae told her. The rest, we have to let go. James Brown sat in his recliner, watching them. I never thought I'd leave this house, he said quietly. Beverly knelt beside him. I'm sorry, Dad. Don't be. He patted her hand. Your grandmother didn't buy this house for the house itself. She bought it for what it represented, a future for her family. He looked at Min-jae, then back to Beverly. We're still family, wherever we go. At 4 a.m., a nondescript government van arrived. 2 agents helped James Brown inside while others loaded their suitcases. Beverly stood on the porch one last time, looking back at the house. Ready? Min-jae asked softly. No, she admitted. But it's time. They climbed into the van. As it pulled away from Dark Hollow Road, Beverly reached for Min-jae's hand in the darkness. He took it, holding on as Camden disappeared behind them. Where are we going? She whispered. I don't know, Min-jae answered honestly. But we're going together. The Vermont morning was crisp, autumn leaves swirling across the lawn of the small blue house on Maple Street. Min-jae adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror, listening to Beverly move around in the kitchen. Coffee's ready, she called. Min-jae grabbed his briefcase. 5 years as an accountant at Green Mountain Credit Union had settled into a comfortable routine. Regular hours. Predictable work. No midnight phone calls about problems that needed solving. Beverly sat at the kitchen table, already dressed for her job at the community center where she ran programs for foster children. Wedding photos hung on the wall behind her, a small ceremony 3 years ago, James Brown in his wheelchair smiling proudly. Min-jae kissed the top of her head. Committee meeting tonight? Cancelled. We can have dinner together for once. Beverly handed him a travel mug. How's the audit going? Almost finished. Just standard procedures. Min-jae smiled slightly. Completely legitimate. It had become a private joke between them, the constant reassurance that their new life was clean, ordinary, safe. The doorbell rang. They exchanged glances. They didn't get many unexpected visitors in Shelburne, Vermont. Min-jae opened the door to find the mail carrier holding a package. Needs a signature, the woman said cheerfully. Min-jae signed and brought the small box inside. No return address. Postmarked Philadelphia. What is it? Beverly asked, coming to look. Min-jae opened the package carefully. Inside was a single photograph of their house, taken recently, the fall decorations Beverly had put up clearly visible. Beneath it, a note with a name, Kang Jun-seo. Min-jae's blood went cold. Who is he? Beverly asked, watching his face change. Uncle Kwan's enforcer. Min-jae set the photo down. He went to prison when the organization fell. Must have been released recently. Beverly's hand found his. How did he find us? I don't know. Min-jae tried to keep his voice calm. But if he found us, others might too. They'd been careful for 5 years. New names in public, Mark and Beth Parker. New backgrounds constructed by the U.S. Marshals. Nothing connecting them to Camden or the organization. But they'd also built real lives here. Beverly's work at the community center. Min-jae's position at the credit union. Friends. A home. Should we call our contact at the Marshal Service? Beverly asked. Not yet. Min-jae checked his watch. Let me handle this first. That afternoon, Min-jae looked up from his desk at the credit union to find a man standing in the doorway of his office. Korean, mid-50s, wearing an expensive coat. Kang Jun-seo hadn't changed much, thinner perhaps, with more gray hair, but the same cold eyes. Can I help you? Min-jae asked in English, maintaining his cover. Kang closed the door. Hello, Min-jae, he said in Korean. Or should I call you Mark now? Min-jae set down his pen. How did you find me? Does it matter? Kang sat uninvited. Your testimony put me away for 5 years. 5 years of my life gone. You committed crimes, Min-jae said simply. Many of them. Following orders. Your orders, sometimes. Min-jae didn't deny it. What do you want? I'm not here for revenge, if that's what you're thinking. Kang's smile was thin. I just wanted to see for myself. The great Min-jae, working in a small-town bank. Living in a little blue house with his American wife. If you're not here for revenge, why come at all? Kang leaned forward. I wanted you to know that I found you. That I could have done something if I wanted to. The threat was implicit. Min-jae remained calm. How's your daughter, Kang? Me son, isn't it? Surprise flickered across Kang's face. What do you know about my daughter? I know she's at Temple University. Pre-med program. Doing very well, from what I hear. Kang's expression hardened. You've been watching my family? No. Min-jae opened his desk drawer and removed a folder. Just making sure she was taken care of. He slid the folder across the desk. Inside were bank statements showing regular deposits into a trust fund. Anonymous, untraceable, but substantial. College is expensive, Min-jae said quietly. I didn't want her to suffer because of her father's mistakes. Kang stared at the documents, then at Min-jae. Why would you do this? Because I know what it's like to have your family pay for your choices. Min-jae met his eyes. I didn't want that for me son. Kang was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost its edge. You're not the same person. No, Min-jae agreed. Neither are you, I think. The organization is gone, Kang said. Uncle Kwan died in prison last year. Dae-young is in Hong Kong, trying to rebuild with new partners. Min-jae absorbed this information without reaction, though inside, he felt a weight lift. Uncle Kwan dead. The threat diminished, if not eliminated. What will you do now? Min-jae asked. Kang stood, buttoning his coat. Go back to Philadelphia. Open a restaurant maybe. Something legitimate. He paused. Mi-sun deserves a father she can be proud of. Yes, Min-jae said. She does. Kang moved to the door, then turned back. I won't tell anyone where you are. Thank you. I'm not doing it for you. Kang's face softened slightly. I'm doing it for Mi-sun. For what you did for her. After Kang left, Min-jae sat at his desk for a long time, staring at the family photo he kept there, him, Beverly, and her father at their wedding. 3 people who had found each other against impossible odds. That evening, Min-jae returned home to find Beverly waiting anxiously on the porch. Is it over? She asked as he approached. I think so. Min-jae sat beside her on the steps. He won't be back. What did you do? I showed him that people can change. Min-jae took her hand. And I think he believed me. Beverly leaned against him, relief in every line of her body. I was so afraid we'd have to leave again. This is our home now, Min-jae said. We're not leaving. They sat together as darkness fell, watching stars appear above the Vermont hills. So different from Camden's urban skyline, from Seoul's neon lights. Peaceful in a way Min-jae had never known before Beverly. Do you ever miss it? Beverly asked after a while. The power? The control? Min-jae thought about it honestly. Sometimes, he admitted. Then I remember what it cost. Who I had to become. He looked at her. And I realize I don't miss that person at all. Who are you now? Beverly's question echoed one she'd asked years ago in that Camden coffee shop. Min-jae squeezed her hand. Someone who chose love over power. And never looked back. Beverly smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. Min-jae thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a forced dinner meeting to a shared life. From enemies to partners. From darkness to something bright and real and worth protecting. Not with violence or money or threats. But with choice. With courage. With the simple, revolutionary act of becoming better than what the world had made them. Come on, Beverly said, standing and pulling him up. Let's go inside. It's getting cold. Min-jae followed her into their small blue house, closing the door on the darkness outside. Tomorrow would be another ordinary day, work, dinner, perhaps a movie afterward. The kind of day that had once seemed impossible for a man like him. The kind of day he would never take for granted. And that, my friends, is the end of our story. If you made it all the way here, I want to say, thank you. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it gave you hope, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Until next time, remember, it's never too late to become who you were meant to be.